Now, 2023 is a particularly important and busy year for everyone involved in TAPA's Supply Chain Security Standards, with revisions to the Association's facility trucking and parking security requirements. Now, here to tell us more, please welcome to the stage TAPA EMEA's Vice Chair, Paul Linders, and Senior Manager of Training and Standards, Markus, Prinz. Join us. Yeah. Over to you, gentlemen. Thanks.
Does it work? Yeah, work. Well, I see a lot of new faces, to be honest, as membership here in TAPA, and which is always good. And it was explained by Torsten that we increased that rapidly, and therefore we thought it would be right time as well to give a little bit more explanation what we do within the Change Control Board. I mean, I'm pretty obvious that a lot of people that have been here for many years already heard the story once, maybe even twice, or maybe 3 times, because we do this already from day one. But the new members would like to understand as well what we do within the Change Control Board. So, to give you a little bit of an overview, the Change Control Board is an organization within the TAPA organization which is combined by 3 regions. And the major job we have to do is, since we see that the TAPA standards are our backbone for the organization, that these standards need to be seen as to be reviewed every 3 years. And it's purely because we see that things are changing, MOs are changing from criminals, but also there are new solutions given by anyone, by any organization that we might adopt within the standards and make it far more easy for you to secure your supply chain. So we focus on the FSR, which is the facility security requirements, as well as the truck security requirements. Those are the ones that are being seen as global standards, and they are a subject to be discussed within the Change Control Board, because EMEA and APAC and the Americas, they have to say something about it. And that work is done roughly about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years before the recycle of 3 years passed by. And if you can remember, the ones that we have now are for 2020, and we need to review them now, and they need to be recalled, 2023 standards. The thing is that it's not always that easy to do. I mean, we were suffering with a lot of delay here as well this time for COVID, and we started pretty late, but we're in there on track, and I'm pretty sure that Markus will give you far more update later on what has been changed and what are the major things that we decided to see differently in the new standards. Okay, the objectives that we have is to review the standards as they are. That's clear. Most important part is that we look at the world. What is that we see today, how criminals attack your freight? What is their MO? How they do that? Is that covered in one of the requirements we have within TAPA, or do we need to add something? Do we need to change something? That's something that we look into. And we get that feedback from auditors. We get that feedback from you as members. We get that feedback from law enforcement. And based on that, we make judgments how to build it stronger and more robust to secure your supply chain. It's reviewed all the feedback that we get by the standard working groups. Each of the region has such a group, and it's built up from experts that do exactly know how the standard works and what the content of the standards might be. Markus is our chair for the for the standard working group we have in EMEA. So he leads that group. And another thing is that the member feedback that we give is also be weighted as, will that compare what we hear from the audit bodies? Do they find things that happened within their audits that brought up the question as, why do we do that? Or could we do that be better? Could it be done differently? And not even about the content of the standards, but also related to, for example, the way how we do it, how we do the audits, how we build up the audits, the audit forms that we use, but also the training that we give. So we get all that feedback, it comes into the standard working group, it's been filtered by those experts, and it comes into the chair, of in the Worldwide Change Control Board. What is really important for us is to avoid, wherever it's possible, to avoid that we make changes that would put you on a higher cost. I mean, it's easily to make changes. It's okay, fine. We had a thing like facility. We closed the doors and we could put intrusion detection on. You know what? We do it better. Now you need to dig yourself a ditch, put some sharks in it, put landmines around it, and look, now you're well secured. That's not the way you want to go forward. It needs to be some things that we are going to implement. It needs to be achievable by you, but also based on in the same cost level. We're not going to push you to get more stuff into your organization, wherever it might be, that will bring you on cost. Now the review period. At this moment, TAPA Americas is the current FSR lead within the Worldwide Change Control Board. I mean, the old members that we have here around pretty know that over the last, let's say, 18 years, I was the global chair from the Change Control Board, but we changed that. We just said, okay, let's hand over the stick to another region and let them do the trick now. So they will do the part on the FSR. However, on the TSR, it's in the hands of Markus. Because, as you know, the TSR, the truck security requirements, is not really well adopted at this moment in the US or in Asia. And we are far more the experts with far more certifications. So they gave that stick back to us and said, okay, will you do the FSR, but please can you do the TSR? Need to read what is there, approval bonus. Oh yeah. The thing is that based on how we run the Change Control Board, we need to have some rules and regulations within the Change Control Board. I mean, you will be amazed what kind of discussions we have and what kind of fights we have to make clear what we as a region want, or what Asia Pacific wants as a region, or what the Americas want. So we put up a kind of bylaws in which it was clearly stated how are we going to make our judgments, how are we going to make our statements, how are we going to make decisions, what can be approved and what cannot be approved. That's the part that we follow as well. The ones that we did now, the FSR, we are almost in the last final phase to make it a final draft. When that's been done, we're going to send it to you all. And you get 1 or 2 weeks to look into. And if there is comment to give, please let us know. Let us know what you think is not correct, or what you're missing, or what you like to see differently. It's not like that we expect a number of, let's say, questions or change control requests, because that ship is already sailed. We build it up in a way as this. We only want to hear from you guys, is this what you can work with, or do you like to see it a little bit different? So please give us that feedback, because that's really important for us. Then the TSR is almost there to finalize the discussions we had with the Worldwide Change Control Board. I mean, we're still in some small but really deep discussions with the other regions. And as you can know, and as you can understand, we defend what we get back from EMEA. If that's, we want to have red trucks, and Asia said we want to have yellow trucks, we will fight till the end, till they decide we go for orange trucks. At least change the color a little bit in a direction, right? And that's what they do as well. So sometimes we have deep discussions, really good discussions, don't get me wrong, and really useful discussion as well. But it will take time to make a final decision. The rollout date on the FSR and the TSR is set on September the 15th. That means from the day on, they're going to be active. They will be on the website, and you can use them and start to implement them wherever you think it's feasible. That still means that if you have existing certifications, that the use of the new standard is only applicable when your certification is expanded. So with the new recertification, you need to follow the new standards. So we are already there, and we're not sure yet if we are make that date. We feel as really comfortable that we will make the date, but that means that there are still some big discussions to follow, but I'm pretty sure we're going to make that happen. Now, I'm pretty sure that you want to know a little bit more about then what has been changed, what is changed within the standards. I'm giving the word now for Markus to give you a little bit more detail than that, and if there's any question about the CB, the Change Control Board itself, please let me know. Markus?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And sometimes it sounds easy. It's not always easy. It's also my first revision now, and my first revision cycle. So I've learned also a lot already, but at least we have been well prepared with the sub-teams. And again, thanks to all the sub-teams we built up in the standards team. And we had for the TSR revision and the FSR revision sub-team who supported us, who's always the members' voice. And we have prepared everything, but sometimes the devil is in the detail. But let's move on and guide you a bit through the standards. PSR. PSR we have launched in January. As you have heard already, that's our program in regards to secure parking. Our goal was also to get alignment and full transparency of SSTPA and the PSR revision. So overall, you have one document where you can also always cross-reference with both of the standards. We see, of course, also the benefit to have both programs in one document so that you can always cross-reference and check about the benefits. Further, there's a benefit also for the parking place operators to go in that direction. With our AABs, the parking place operators can directly also go for one certification and can cover two programs in one certification. And that's what we see as a benefit. Further, of course, in the meantime, we are also approved by the European Commission and an official training center also on the SSTPA program, and that's also a lot of work in the past, but we got it now. We have our own certificates, and we are happy about that. We are also just finalized the new wrap-up videos for the new program, for the new training program of PSR, and I think more will come and more will follow. We are also just updating our marketing material related to PSR and SSTPA so that we want to attract more operators in the future. And I'm sure that all the booking platform operators and our partners we have already in place will support us on that direction. But we have also heard that platinum or that the gold level is not what we think is the future. I think more that the bronze level or also the silver or our level 3 and level 2 is more common in the future, as it is always a combination between the truck security and the parking solution and the parking option. Further, we are also already working in the background on a new training concept. I will come to that later. Similar, we continue then also with FSR and TSR on that training concept. But let's move on about some information related to the facility security requirements. The good thing is we are close to the welcome reception. The bad thing is there are still 20 minutes sprints in between. But let's dive deeper a bit into the FSR. As Paul has mentioned, the scheduled launch date is the 15th of September. I want to give you some information about the major changes. And for those of you who are already aware about the standard, in the last 3 years period, we had already integrated the authorized auditor qualification. Now it's also updated in the standard, for example. Of course, we have also changed some management commitments in the chronological order of the standard. So some of these requirements moved from the central function to the general management commitment. Further, we have also adjusted some wordings. So we added, for example, to the CCTV also the video surveillance system. That's what you can expect also related to all the CCTV requirements in the document. And believe it or not, we discussed, I think, roughly 2 months about a change. We could protect ourselves and also our members. We discussed about the definition of recognizable and identifiable. And we came, from my point of view, to a good solution. Again, for a 3 years implementation process, that we do a change and do a move at least to discern facial features of personnel and individuals. So at least we could protect huge invest if we would do a change for identifiable in regards to the CCTV coverage. So, but as Paul has already mentioned, sometimes the devil is in the detail and it takes hours to come to a conclusion. Further, and we got requests from our members about the alarms and transmission of alarms. So we changed that also now from the fixed cable to the wireless solution. These are some options. Further, we have also discussed about better explanation, change of wording, that we have less misinterpretation in the standard itself. And finally, we have also given some more clarification about the internal site audits and that their availability prior to the certification process must be integrated. So we have also learned our lessons from the multi-site certifications. We are monthly discussing also with our AABs, and we listening the AABs, and of course we are also preparing in the background a kind of multi-site guidance document, what should help you later on whilst implementation. As you know it already from our LSG, of our telematics system guidance, as well as our CCTV system guidance, and now, as mentioned, we are planning also to go for the multi-site guidance document. And as soon we are updating or we are launching the revision, we will go to also launch the new multi-site guidance document. Further, and to complete at least the discussions we had, we will continue also with the enhanced options of cyber and security. That was also a long discussion due to the fact that other regions have already integrated and launched a cyber security standard. We in EMEA decided not to go for it for good reason. At least we had a lot of GDPR issues. You normally need to go for 10 or 12 waivers if you want to fulfill this kind of cyber security standard. And that's the reason, as soon as we have finalized and updated the current FSR and TSR revisions, of course, then the work doesn't stop, and we will continue also in discussions with the other regions in that direction of a cyber enhanced option. Further, and to conclude that, we are also learned and heard whilst our African conference that the GSR standard is of interest, especially on that country, and also we will grab that up again and discuss about the integration. And if it's only on one country, then it is a solution, but we are looking also deeper into that. Okay, that brings us also to some updates about the trucking security requirements. And Paul has already mentioned we are leading this revision. It doesn't make it easier sometimes. At least we have used our proposal, and the majority of our wishes or of the changes we raised, at least they also accepted by the other regions. Similar here, they accepted also the authorized auditor qualification, so it's now in the standard. We continue with that direction. Each and everybody who wants to go for that certification needs the qualification of an authorized auditor, and of course have to join our training to get at least experience on the standard. Further, integrated now in the standard, or will be integrated and is already approved by all the regions, that we expect or want to get anonymous reporting of incidents. Of course, it's only a question. We can ask you to forward and to share your incidents in a neutral form, anonymous, and that's also updated. Further, secure parking requirements at least moved to another area of the standard, so we consolidated that. In the former or in the current requirement or in the current standard, it's under the management and connected with the risk analysis. In the future, it will be moved to the procedures. Further, we have also updated the glossary. We're giving more updates, more details that we expect not having any more misinterpretations, similar like we have done that also in the FSR. We also think about more flexibility with the design change. And as you know from the current TAJA standard, we have an overview of all the fleet categories: hard-sided, soft-sided, container, or van and tractors. And in the future, we will add separate appendix documents to the TAJA standard. So currently, we have roughly 75 pages in the standard. In the future, we have a kind of framework document explaining everything, all the details and needs in roughly 21 pages. And we will then separatize the vehicle types in different appendix documents. We see the benefit here also to adjust and to add more vehicle types in the future. That gives more flexibility to add also, whilst the 3 years period, also some additional appendix documents or vehicle types. Further, we agreed on the definition of covered location. In the past, that was also always a discussion, what means a covered location, where to place the GPS system. So we have now integrated that as well in the glossary. And a major change will be in the future on the level 3 GPS tracking. If you remember, in the past, the truck had to archive all the details, and only when the truck returned, you have to read it out. And I think in the meantime, and with the current solutions and flat rates, it's not any longer, how to say it, the systems are quite good, the solutions are on the market, and what we have changed now on the level 3 is that we request also the ping rate of the GPS on 60 minutes, and in the past it was enough to read these kind of details out of the GPS or out of the truck, and the new change is then that we request a ping rate of 60 minutes on the level 3 as well. Further, new will be a new fleet size, and as you know, in the past we had S, we had M, and we had L, and now the new fleet size category will overlarge for all the vehicle numbers above the 300. Connected with that, I will come later also to an idea, and we just discussed this idea with the other regions. It's not born in EMEA, at least it is one of the discussions which delays right now also the finalization of the revision. But I will come to that later. Further, a buyer notification in case of an incident will be requested within the 24 hours. That's also new. If the truck driver, if there occurred an incident, if there is an emergency, that you have to inform also the customers within the 24 hours time after this incident. Further, a major change is the driver training. In the past, it was enough to train the drivers within the 30 days period of time of his employment. Now it has been changed and agreed with all the 3 regions that the driver needs to be trained before he starts his first HVTT journey. I know it doesn't make it easier, but it protects the buyer assets. As there were also trends and information we received from that topics and issues, and the other regions also pushed for that, so we had to accept that as well. Still open is a topic about the sample size audit of the fleet. As you know, in the past we had the 7% of overall fleet to check whilst in audit. Now an idea from APEC came up that we are following a kind of square root calculator. What means there is an overall calculation and no no any longer a maximum of sample audits. In the current version of 2020, we have the sample audits, and it's limited to 10 vehicles on the day of the audit. The square root calculation normally foresees if you have a fleet of 500 trucks, then you have to do the sample audits of roughly 20 trucks on the day of the audit. Of course, that has an impact on cost, that have an impact also on the flexibility and use option of the fleet, and then increase the costs of the audit itself. So we also discussed that already. Right now, we haven't finalized it, but of course, we have also now clarified if we do not come to a conclusion by next week, Wednesday, that means on the 21st, then we leave it as it is, or we have to work with a kind of alternative solution, but I will keep you updated on this. At least these are the major changes we discussed related to the TSR revision. That will bring me immediately also to the training news and the change of the training. So in the future, we go in a direction to provide our trainings with an avatar solution. So we have already recorded sequences yesterday from some of our trainers and team members, and in the future you can see me as well in speaking different languages. Don't ask me anything in that language, but the avatar solution foresees it, that we provide, of course, these kind of trainings, and here we are talking about, first of all, FSR, TSR, and then we follow up also with PSR, to provide these trainings then with an avatar concept, and of course, as you know, again, online. So it gives you and your employees or team members the flexibility to do the trainings whenever it fits for you. But of course, we are also preparing right now with the launch and the revision the training material. And what I want to share is already the new training dates, at least training dates we have already scheduled to give those of you who wants to go or have to go for recertification or for new certification in beginning of September already some solutions. And these trainings will take place at least on FSR, already scheduled on the 23rd of August and on the 6th of September. On TSR, we have already scheduled these dates also on the 24th of August and the 7th of September. So we will also open the registration soon for that. We will start and kick it off with a virtual training, so that those of you who need the authorized auditor qualification for these thirds, that you have also the opportunity to join these trainings and to get your TSR or FSR authorized auditor qualification. What you can expect from the trainings, at least you can expect new recorded sequences, more 3D animation. You have seen already in the video this morning some of these sequences, so we are explaining more in detail in the 3D animation what it means, what we expect, and we explain the requirement more in detail. Further, intermediate questions we have now also integrated, or in the future integrated, in the different or between the different modules, also to review and check what you have learned, or what at least the trainees or learners have learned in the previous module. And only if you answer correct, then you can go and continue to the next module. So these were also lessons learned, as we have checked out. Sometimes we had trainees failed the training, and then we checked out later the system, and then some of them tried to join and cover this training in 3 hours. I know only the content is 7 hours. That's not possible. And including the exam, you cannot fulfill and pass in the 3 hours time. These trainees have joined in the program. Further, we have created and designed new certs, new certificates for FSR and PSR and TSR. And in the future, and you have seen, I think, already messages sent 2 days ago, In the future, with the update of our CRM, we are storing and archiving also your certs in your MyTAPA login, so that you can always download your member or your employee certs from your MyTAPA account. And I think that's also, again, a benefit and good direction into the future, that you can always check who is qualified and when your members or employees have done the last trainings. Okay, local activities. I will conclude also my information and update on the standards. As you have heard already this morning also from Thorsten, we are really active in the different regions, and also the different teams are really active, as we have been just last week on the SIL in Barcelona, and thanks to the entire team for supporting us on that. We will directly continue also with the webinar on the 21st of June, where we are covering 3 major topics in local language. Follow also our LinkedIn information, and follow also information in the monthly webinar. In Italy, we are also grown with the local team. We have already scheduled a webinar on the 19th of October, and soon we will also follow up with a webinar in South Africa and in France. So stay tuned, and whenever you have interest, also support our local teams, please feel free to contact me or the local leads of the team. We have here Felipe, we have Dario taking care about the Italian team, Felipe is taking care about Portugal and Spain. Then we have South Africa, of course, Massimo here, and we are happy to have him here, and Celine is taking care about the French team. Okay, at least that brings me to the end of my update. If you have questions, I think now it's the time to raise them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us, Markus. And Markus, you mentioned LinkedIn there as well, and actually we would really love to encourage all of you to share any posts, or follow any of the TAPA EMEA posts from this conference and share them with your contacts to raise even more awareness about the work of TAPA EMEA. I won't keep you from your drinks. I'm conscious of the time, but I've just got to squeeze in a few questions beforehand. And thank you both for that very useful update. But before we do get into our questions, we do have some congratulations, because as many of you know, Paul is Global Head of Supply Chain Security, Group Security, Physical and Personnel Security at Philips, based here in the Netherlands. And he's previously spent over 17 years in Dutch national law enforcement, as well as in the role of Global Head of Security at Siva Logistics. He was also one of the founding members of TAPA EMEA and has played an important and active role in the growth and development of the association for over 23 years. Now, in April, in recognition of his voluntary work for TAPA, his career in the security and supply chain sectors, and his personal contribution to the security of the Netherlands, Paul received one of the country's highest accolades, the honour of Knight in the Order of Orange, on the approval of King Willem-Alexander. So I just wanted us all to join together and congratulate Paul on that. Well deserved. Now we'll just do a couple of questions. I'm conscious of the time, so we'll keep them quite short. Paul, let me start with you, though. You mentioned the updates or changes in the standards shouldn't automatically mean an increase in implementation costs for members. But I imagine that this isn't always possible. So how does the Change Control Board handle this if a change looks as though it will have a higher cost attached to it?
Yeah. That's true. Sometimes we simply cannot avoid. I mean, if you want to go with the technology, if you want to go with the flow of what are the right answers to fight crime on the right position, then sometimes you need to make a decision which is cost effective. What we try to do, and many of us here that might have seen it over the last few years, in which we made some changes in the FSR, can still remember, for example, that there was a moment in which we simply had to make a decision that analog CCTV was no longer needed or no longer allowed. But we did understand as well, to make such a decision, although it was a decision that was normally be made in the level of involvement of digital systems, so it was just a step to make once. But we also understood very clearly that this would mean for some of the companies that all the old cameras are no longer to be used and need to be reviewed, need to be replaced. That's a lot of cost. We also made the change once in, for example, the number of frames that need to be recorded to understand that we get the right images. If we make such a thing that we see that it will have deep impact on cost, we always try to make it aware that we are willing to change that in the next 3 years. So that means that if you're going to be as a new member and you're going to certify your facility against the latest standard, then you need to follow that standard on the newest level of requirements. But if you are there already within the standards and certified against the older levels, then you can keep that up, and you need to know that if that is going to be renewed, you need to follow the new standards. So we try to work our way in that direction to get yourself used to what we're going to change. It's not like today we want this, tomorrow we want that, because we do understand what impact that can have.
Markus, the new TSR standard will have a different setup based more on a modular approach. Is this recognition that TAPA sees the need to add other types of transport vehicles to the standard? And if so, what new types of transport are being looked at?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are looking for. We want to get more flexibility to add more vehicles, other vehicle types. At least the request came up from APAC. Or at least we discussed about the connection or option to connect also pharmaceuticals and GDPR trucks or vehicles and trailers to our standard, and that was the reason behind. So we expect more flexibility to adjust also these different vehicle types in the standard in the future.
Paul, you mentioned the date for the which has been set for the new FSR and TSR revisions. It was originally going to be the 1st of July 2023. It's now changed to the 15th of September. What's the reason for this later rollout?
Wow. Many. I think the most important one was, of course, that we started pretty late because of COVID. When you asked me that question in the virtual meeting, and I answered that we are still looking at the right dates, that was obvious wild guess, but not anymore reality, after we also understand that we agreed within the Change Control Board to put up a new bylaw. I mean, like we handle and how we make decisions. In the past, it was an easy fix. We said 2 out of 3 regions, when they are agreed on standard or on the change, then the third has to take it on board, right? And within the new bylaws, we changed that out 3 out of 3. So now you understand that everybody has a kind of veto, right? So if there is a discussion there that somebody of one of the regions doesn't like, they can say, I don't want that. That brings delay, that brings longer discussions, and sometimes we even have one discussion on one subject that takes about 2 or 3 meetings. And that brought in the delay, and we just made the decision, we won't make it. Not in time to roll out the trainings, to roll out the draft to be reviewed by the members. So the most important part for us was bring it to later.
And Markus, just a quick question whilst Torsten comes up on stage very quickly, because he's going to have a quick look ahead to tomorrow with me. Just a final question. Most TAPA Standards training courses are now virtual, online trainings. Is this the future direction of TAPA trainings, or will face-to-face training still be available?
No, I think that is the future. We will go online. It gives more flexibility. That's what we have learned also, what we have heard from the members. Of course, if there's a request, if there's a need, then we can also arrange face-to-face trainings. We are also doing that. We have already pre-planned some bespoke trainings, and if you have an interest or a company internal training is needed, then let me know and we can arrange it. But the future is our online avatar solution to give the most flexibility and the different languages opportunity.
Well, thank you both for joining us and for those updates. And you'll be around now at the welcome drinks, won't you, if anybody wants to catch up with you then, I'm sure. Thank you.